Hi class. I wanted to kind of go over and give you some information of how to keep your files small. One of the things that's going to happen with Unreal is when you start packaging your files can become really big, especially when you start downloading multiple asset packs. I mean, your files could be 4, 5, 6 gig, okay, which in and of itself is not a problem if you're working on your own machine, but when you're doing what we're doing, which is sharing our files, that can become a problem. And so I wanted to give you a way to approach that to kind of alleviate that situation. Now, most people, when they come into Unreal, have a background in 3D modelers. Okay, like I have Maya up here, or it could be 3ds Max. Okay, and inside of those softwares, you have an archive function. So once you build an object in here and you put materials and texture maps and stuff on it, you can go up here and go File, and you can pull down to do Archive Scene. And an archive scene will save your Maya file, and then it saves all the materials and textures and everything that you need to render that file will be all packaged together in a zip file. Max does the same thing. So inside of Max, it's File, Archive, okay. And with new students, I have a problem with this sometimes because they think if they just give me their Max file or their Maya file, it'll have all their textures in. Max files and Maya files only save the geometry, okay? So what you have to do is archive it, and then it saves all your materials and all your texture maps with it. So both Maya and Max, okay? And it's basically a zip file where it zips the folder structure up, which is very similar to what we're doing in Unreal. And so what happens a lot of the times when people go into the Unreal Engine is they'll think that when I go up here and I go File, Zip Project, that it's doing the same thing, that's going to save my my Unreal project, the levels, the textures and the materials and the model. It's all going to be put in here. And yes, it does do that, but the distinct difference in it is it doesn't discern on the materials and texture maps. It copies the folder. So in other words, if your model is inside of a folder, like when you're downloading an asset pack, if you load the model from inside that asset pack, when you zip it, it'll zip the entire folder with all the assets in it. And that's a distinct difference between when you're archiving in Max Maya. It only archives what it needs. In Unreal, it archives everything. So even if you download an asset pack that's got 40 different assets in it, and you use one of them, when you zip it, it's going to zip the folder that has all 40 assets in it. And that's how your files get really, really big. So I'm going to show you a way that you can, it's kind of a workaround, but it's a way that you can do it so that it's only going to zip up the things that you need. Okay, so here's how you do that. The first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to load a new project. Okay, we're going to make a dummy project. Okay, we're going to make a dummy project that we're going to have it copy all of the assets that we need from our real project into this dummy project. Okay, so just make a blank project. I call mine like migrate_dummy. Okay, make sure you're only using underscores and not dashes. I see people making some mistakes and putting dashes in their name. Unreal doesn't like dashes. It only likes underscores. So I'm making one called migrate_dummy. That way, it tells me right off the bat, okay, this is just a dummy folder that I migrate into. Okay, so I've already created one and I'm inside of it now. Okay, so once you're in here, you'll see this is lightweight. There's nothing in it. There's nothing in the content. It's just got the engine, just a blank file. Okay, so it's very lightweight. All right, so once you have this, now we want to open up your real file, and I'm going to pause the video while I open up my file. Okay, now that I have my project loaded, you'll see I have everything in a folder. I've created a folder for all of my assets. And I've got a folder with my models in it. Okay, I've got a folder with my materials in it. Okay, this is just the way that I had you make your structure. All of these assets are loaded from this folder, not from the original folder. And this is where a lot of people will mess up. They have a tendency to go to those assets when they downloaded them and just start dragging and dropping them in here, okay? That's kind of a problem, okay? What you should be doing is copying those and put them in your models, putting your materials in here, so that's, and then I've got my levels in here, and it's all contained inside of this folder, okay? Now, so what we're able to do is if I go and click on content right here, then you'll see my folder here. So what I can do is migrate all of the stuff that's inside this folder into my dummy folder. So if I right click and I go to migrate, I can migrate that over. Now, before I do that, here is where my project is right now. And it is 902 megabytes, so it's just a little bit under a gig is how much how size this is right now, because it's storing other content in it. And so we'll check it to see what it is after I migrate. So I picked the folder. Now you can migrate my model, okay, but if you migrate the folder, then it's going to migrate the models, the materials, the levels, everything. So you just right click, you're going to go to migrate. All right, this window's going to pop up and it's going to show you all the stuff it's migrating, which is fine. Usually you don't need to mess with this. And then you click OK. Then you go over and find your folder that you made. Okay, migrate dummy right there. And you can't drop it into the folder because you have to drop it into the content folder. So you have to pick the content folder. If you don't pick the content folder, it'll give you an error and says, well, wait a minute, this needs to go into a content folder. So you pick the content folder and then you select it. And then what it's going to do is it's going to copy all of the models, materials, textures, and your level to that new folder. Okay. And I'm going to pause while it's doing that. Okay, so now it's migrated over here. And now I've done properties and it's dropped down to 236 megabytes. So it's gone from a gig to a quarter of a gig. And then the content, you'll see now there's my content in there right there. Okay. It'll put some other information in here too. It may put some other folders, which is fine, but it's only copying over the information that you needed. And so now this is your new project and you can open this project and then you'll be able to open your level. And I'm going to pause while I do that. Okay, now I've got that dummy one loaded and you'll see now it's got my content in here. And now I can load this up. And there's my project. So now what I've done is made a dummy area to copy all my content into. And now I've kind of moved all the content that I need for my specific level and not all the master content into a new folder. And now I can zip up that project from here. So from here, I can go ahead and zip the project up. And now it's only going to have my assets and it'll be smaller. Okay, and one last thing. So now what's going to happen is your project is going to be called, Migrate Dummy. And your folder is Migrate Dummy. Okay, so you can come back and rename this. So you can go back and rename it, this level, okay, what our project was. You can go back and rename this project like so, okay, and then you would be able to go out and rename the folder also. However, you can't rename this folder while this is still open. So you will have to shut down Unreal. You'll have to wait a minute for it to realize it's shut down. Then you can rename this folder to your level. Okay. So you can actually rename the project and the folder, and it'll still retain all of your information instead of you turning in something to me. This is Migrate Dummy. But you can't do that. You can't rename it while this is open. You'll have to close Unreal, or you can launch another project, and then it won't be attached to this, and then you can rename it. Okay, I hope that helped you guys. All right, thank you very much.